Hello and welcome back to Cello from the Beginning. Well, you've spent quite a bit of time working on your D Mixolydian scale and using your second finger on the A string and third finger on the D string. And now we're ready to put those notes together in an actual piece of music. And we're going to play an old fiddle tune called Old Joe Clark, a very well-known song, and it uses this D Mixolydian scale. Right out of the gate, we get that C natural down to a D sharp. So even though this piece is in D, that would be our accompaniment part there. We're having that D chord through there. We're using this lowered seventh scale step. So it's a true D Mixolydian piece. So let me just bring the sheet music up here. And of course, link in the description. You can download that and print it out or put it on your screen. Let's talk about a couple things right away in the music. So as you'll see at the beginning, we have this four, a whole line here with a big four in this block. This means that there's 4 measures of rest. Now we're in 2/4 key signature. That means there's only 2 beats in a measure. So instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, we just count 1, 2, 1, 2. Those are our measures. So as we're counting that rest or listening to the accompaniment, what we're counting then is 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, play. So you'll hear, when you get to the backing track, you'll hear those 4 measures of rest that you're resting. There's accompaniment part there. So again, you're just counting to 2 instead of 4. 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2. All right, let's take a look at our first line of music here. And this is a song which it really only has 2 lines and they repeat. So I'm just bring this up nice and large for the moment. And we can right on. That's what I want. Okay. So here we are. Old Joe Clark. So right where we come in. And you're going to see, so 8th notes and quarter notes, pretty much the only rhythms you have in this piece. Let's just play through this first line once. All right, let's slow it down, break it down, go a little at a time. So we make sure our hand's in the right place. Get our 1 right over where we want to be. Now remember, we're going to be using second finger, C natural on the A string. So that's going to be a little bit lower than when we're playing third. That's our first little lick. A, 1, 2, 1, A. Now we cross over to the D string, 4th finger, 3rd finger. That's the first 2 measures. A, 1, 2, 1, A, 4, 3. Then we do this figure at the beginning of it again. A, 1, 2, 1, A. Right, there it is. A, 1, 2, 1, A, D4, 3, A, 1, 2, 1, A. So this is just a fragment of our D Mixolydian scale. We're playing from the F sharp, G, A, B, C. There's our little little scale up piece. So that should be well in hand at this point. So remember, the only thing we have to really concentrate on or watch out for is to make sure as we're coming down the scale that we get 4 and 3. A little reach on 4 because of the string crossing, and then make sure 3 gets back up to position. Now look at the next two measures. They are exactly the same as the first two measures. Only difference here is our ending. We stay on the D string this time. D, 3, 1, 1, D quarter, quarter. So the second half of this line then, of this 8-bar phrase, all right, let's try the whole line together under tempo. 1 and 2 and. Okay, there you have it. That's the first line. Now, the good news is that this is also the third line of this piece. So you'll see this is the line we just played. We have something different, then we have that again, and then repeated the second line. So as we work through this, you'll see that we've really learned half the piece now. So let's look at the second line. Let me shrink this up. Make it nice so that there we go. So here is the next line. Let me play this for you. So this really doesn't even involve the Mixolydian scale because we never get to the second finger. We're really using only these notes: D, E, F sharp, G, and open A. So the Mixolydian part of this song is, in the melody anyway, it's just in that first line. And we have a pretty straightforward thing here. So D, 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 A, D4, D3. Very easy. D, 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 A, 4, 3. Then this little figure, D, 1, D, A. All right, so that's the first half of this line. Let's try it together. 1 and 2 and. D, A, 4, 3, D, 1, D, A. Finally, we get the second half, which starts out exactly the same. D, A, and we get this figure. D, 3, 1, D, D. If that seems familiar, it's because it's the ending of the first line that we just played. So we already know that. So let's try this whole line. 1 and 2 and. D, A, 4, 3, D, 1, D, A, D, A, 4, 3, D, 3, 1, 1, D, D. All right, that is Old Joe Clark. What happens now is we play the melody again. So here's the beginning that we played. Here's the next line that we played. Third line same as the first line of melody. Fourth line, same as the second line, only one difference, the final note. So the final note of Old Joe Clark here has a staccato on it. And I'll show you how and why we're doing that. So we get to that last, this is just a little kick at the end as we're playing it. So the first time we go through the melody and we finish it, we just have long Ds. Right, connected legato notes that connect into each other. The last time we want that little oomph at the end. So it's just a short, and I'm bringing the bow off, and I'm actually damping the note here. It's a tiny little effect at the end, to a sting really at the end of the piece. So let's talk now a little bit just about the style of playing. So this is not a piece in which all the notes are going to be short, even though they're eighth notes. We don't want this. Because this is fiddle music, in a particular American style, we want the notes to basically be connected. So I'm playing legato. Now it's not a classical legato because I'm not. It's not quite the same as a classical legato as if I was playing. Let's see if I can do that. So that would be a very classical way to play the song. Completely wrong. Don't want to do that. We want to saw on this a little bit. So we're kind of sawing. We're not making quite the phrase shapes that we would make if it was a classical song, Mozart or something. So we're sawing on it a little bit, but we are connecting the bows, and that gives us this kind of more traditional fiddly sound. So I'm not trying to avoid accents on those. I'm letting my down bows accent a little bit. I'm letting everything be. It's kind of a combination of slightly punchy but also connected. So we use a little more bow than we might normally use for a classical eighth notes at that speed, because I want that raw, more aggressive, more sawing sound. So the next video is the backing track for Old Joe Clark. So once you get to practice the notes here, you get them up to tempo. You can listen to the backing track and hear about how fast that goes. So remember that on the backing track, you'll have those 4 bars of introduction, and it's there's a plucked bass part and a banjo part. So you'll be able to count from the bass part because you'll hear something that's basically you'll hear that beat 1, 2, 3, 4, something along that lines. But you'll hear those quarter notes plucking there, and then you come right in. All right, let me go through this. I'm going to go through this 2 ways. So we've let's go through it slowly, beginning to end, and then we'll go through it something closer to tempo, beginning to end. So for learning tempo here, let's go 1, 2, ready, and. that little noise there on my fourth finger is what happens when your fourth finger does not actually fully hit the string. I only got the tip of it on there. It happens sometimes when you're doing string crossings. So then it'll make a weird sound like that. All right, so let's drop that out of the way. And let's now do the whole thing up to tempo. So maybe 1, 2, ready, and... All right, practice hard. I hope you enjoy Old Joe Clark, and we'll see you next time on Cello from the Beginning.